Growing a business is hard, but it does not have to be. Once a week, we take a break from the hustle and bustle in business to talk about innovations and what's new in the C suite. This is the Fractional C-Suite Retreat, and I'm Joseph Frost. Pull up a seat at the fire, grab a drink, smoke a cigar, and just join me as we relax, learn, and get inspired. This retreat is sponsored by Your CMO, helping organizations grow with better marketing strategy. Welcome. Today's guest created the first digital marketing course for universities in Australia. He invented a model of influence for consumer behavior online that has been accurate 100% of the time for the last 15 years, and now lives on a Caribbean island and says he invites all of his best clients down to visit him. Welcome, Joshua Strowsinski. I'm close, I know, with J Marketing. Glad to have you.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll get into some stuff about what you do, but one of the questions I always love to ask to begin is, what's one thing that you think that C-level leaders need to be thinking about these days that maybe they're not aware of in that C-suite? What's one thing they should be talking about or thinking about?
You know, the biggest problem in the marketing world is there's too much noise and innovation. Fundamentally, sales and marketing hasn't changed in hundreds of years. And the thing that they should be looking at is, are we actually getting the fundamentals of what our customer wants and how to capture their interest in 2.6 seconds?
2.6 seconds.
It is a very specific number, and it's very specific because the psychological studies show that our subconscious mind makes up its mind in 2.6 seconds. And this is getting shorter. You know, research from Microsoft showed we used to have an attention span of 15 seconds. This has now dropped to 7 seconds in just the last 15 years. And it's because we are being inundated with marketing messages. And so our brain, which is geared to protect us from them, is getting more and more and more efficient at filtering it all out and just pulling us into what's important. So 2.6 seconds, that's how long you've got to capture someone's interest and hold it.
And is that a key constraint when you're working with your models for influence online?
100%. When we bet with our clients that, let me implement this within your business on a single page in your website, and I will show you an uplift without you spending $1 more on advertising. And to let you in on the secret, the make and break beyond everything else is the first 2.6 seconds. It is the hero section, built in a very specific way, not necessarily to look pretty, but so that the brain can instantly go, I am in the right place. This feels good. I'm now going to donate another 10 seconds to read a little more about them.
All right, I'm really going to get excited to talk to you because it's very rare that I find legitimate marketing professionals that have some sort of guaranteed offer to get people to understand the value. It's very rare, and you do. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit of detail in a minute. But I want to ask you, how has AI changed the game even more? Has it shortened that time frame? Has it made it noisier? Of course it has. What has AI done to just impact your model, your influence model that you've been working on for 15 years?
It is changing every single day. And one of the really interesting things in advertising is that AI is now getting better and better at identifying signals within individuals that says, hey, you're perfect for this product. So when companies are advertising well, they're sending a higher quality of person through. But, and this is the big but, it is only 50% of the equation. And I think that I come back to what we first said, what C-suite should be aware of is that if you're focusing on that part, which is the targeting, you're still missing the key ingredient. Now, I use this metaphor a lot. If you put an ad into a newspaper and 1,000 people came into your store, but no one purchased anything, would you put another ad in the paper tomorrow?
Absolutely not.
No, well, what would you do? You would check the cameras and you would see that the guy behind the desk is actually flipping everyone off and scaring them away. And yet, for some reason in digital, the solution will be, well, refine that ad a little bit better and get 2,000 people through the door, or get 1,000 people but a couple of them buy, instead of, okay, well, let's go a little deeper. And just to build on that with AI, I had a great conversation with a guy who calls himself a futurist today. And what he was talking to me about with all his AI work is it's only as good as the inputs that we put into it. Now, if we get those fundamental inputs wrong, all of a sudden, everything we're relying on is compromised. And we end up with if you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy sort of situation. So it's changing, but it's changing so fast. I don't know how many people have mastered it.
Yeah, it certainly has made a big dent in the marketing world, and we'll see what comes of it. I'm convinced that the fundamentals are still the fundamentals, and it sounds like you are too, and that's a big piece of it. You got to adapt to some of the noise and the technology, but at the end of the day, understanding who your customer is and our prospect is or client is ideally, and what their challenges and problems are, and being able to communicate to them that you can solve those differently than your competition, like that's the fundamentals. And I don't know how you do that in 2.7 seconds though. That's the fascinating part.
Yeah. And if I was to give a few rules to people, go to your website right now, go to your homepage and tell me what the headline says. Because if it says any combination of "we are X," you ain't stealing their attention. Why? Well, because no one cares what you are. What they care about is, do you solve their problem? So one of the writing rules I teach young aspiring copywriters is every headline and every paragraph should start with a verb. Why a verb? Because it is impossible to write about yourself if you start with a verb. Try and emphasize, like, retain more customers. Nope, that's about the outcome. Terrific. Increase revenue by 37%. That's about the outcome. Brilliant. You have got a much higher probability of capturing their attention. And the truth is, in 2.6 seconds, all your eyes can read is about 6 words on the page that take up the biggest information hierarchy. So that's the trick.
That's amazing. Simple, but very, very astute. Copywriting is a lost art. And it's going to be forever forgotten, I think, with AI almost, because we rely, and I say we, like collectively, I see most people today are relying on AI to write almost everything. They're writing their emails, their obituaries for their families, their headlines, their web pages, their email marketing campaigns, advertisements, and it's not all that good usually. So having that true kind of copywriter's training and instinct, I think is super valuable, but it's going to be less and less, I think, practical for somebody to make a living with it, because the understanding is that AI can do it better, faster, cheaper, but the reality is it can't. At least what I've seen, it doesn't do a great job of it.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. And the thing which AI really doesn't understand yet, I think it will in the future, but it doesn't understand that humans get bored really easily. It is extremely good at answering questions, but it is not extremely good at capturing our attention and holding it. And this is something which we see all the time. I can't tell you how many hundreds of copywriters I've trained over the years who are brilliant at grammar, but aren't brilliant at empathy. Well, guess what AI has 0 of? Empathy.
It can pretend to have it. I get a lot of lip service from AI lately, like, oh, you must be really upset. You're 100% right. I should have done this better. I get that a lot because I challenge the AI when I work with it.
100%. And you can tweak it to do this well, but not without manual intervention.
Right.
That same tip that I gave before, that the first sentence should draw you in, it should be true of everything you write. In fact, one of the things we train our staff on is every email that you send to your client, the only time you know you've got their attention is the first line in the email. So, and there was actually a great study type put into this. Don't write, "Hi, Joe, hope you're well." That first line has to say, "Hi, Joe, this email is about whatever, SEO, and I am looking for your feedback on X." Otherwise, we'd know it's inefficient. And right now, if you ask AI to write any email, the very first thing it says is, "Hey, Joe, hope you're going well."
Yeah.
So it's failing the first rule.
Yeah. Well, it's awfully noisy, and that's the opportunity for agencies and people like you in the past and in the future. So let's talk a little bit about a couple of things that I know you do well. I love this idea of, I think of it in my words as a free A/B test to prove that we can be better than what you're currently doing. So explain that a little bit deeper. Like, I'm a business owner with a high degree of skepticism about marketing, which almost every business owner I talk to has, in such a way that I would be intrigued to give you a shot.
Let me set up the problem scenario. And that is that there are so many fly-by-nighters out there that you are inundated with people saying, "Oh, I can do this, I can do that." So it doesn't matter that I've been doing this for 20 years. It all gets flooded together. So I created this model to make it just a no-brainer, where we come in and say, one page on your website, could be a product page, a landing page, could be your homepage. We will do it no money down. We will make you what a high performance scientific page looks like. We'll split your traffic 50% from the old page, 50% to our page. And I will literally show you the uplift in inquiries. Now, on average, inquiries increase 30 to 50% without spending $1 more on your advertising when you apply science. And it's that simple. From there, you're going to want that magic across every part, everything that customers come in contact with. That's our long game, and we're prepared to show it to you before you actually invest in it.
And is it also applicable if that traffic is just coming organically?
100%. In fact, even more so. And we see this all the time, where websites have tons of organic traffic to blog pages and various other things they're doing, but they're not actually converting that effectively into then high value leads. And this is just the traditional conventional wisdom is, "Oh, it's branding." No, it's not. It is missed opportunity from people that were specifically looking for something you're an expert in.
Yeah. So I've got an embarrassing question. We may get traffic to our website. Let's say it's 350 visitors a week, so 1,500 a month, and we get zero inquiries. Now, my understanding of our target audience is typically that most business owners of $5 to $50 million companies are not randomly searching websites for fractional CMOs. So I don't expect a lot of business to come there. But I would expect other fractional CMOs that are inquiring and considering becoming a CMO of ours that might want to jump on and learn more about us. I would expect other partners like yourself that might want to inquire, and I do get a lot of spam, but that's different. But then I also am curious, who are those 1,500 people a month that are coming, and why aren't we capturing them? And so an example like that, how would you expect your test to work? Because you're starting with zero as opposed to like an actual conversion.
Yeah. Well, there's two things that I can tell you. And I won't answer the question directly, but I will tell you what you could do. The very first thing is I'd be interested to install a little piece of software like Snitcher, or there's a million of them, that do a reverse IP lookup and tell you who are these companies that have been on our website, because that's immediately going to help you to narrow that question down. But secondly, I think that the value is actually significantly broader. And I'll talk a little bit about the psychology of how people make B2B decisions. So this is my area of expertise. The long story short, 15 years of research summarized into 60 seconds, is that it's not the value offer that you present to them which is critically important. It is the removal of fear and anxiety. And when we look at the science, the subconscious process that our brain goes through whenever it makes a decision, every one of the questions that it asks is there fear here? Is there doubt? So we know from Gartner research that every time someone's considering you, maybe you've been up on stage or they had a meeting with you or a million offline ways of coming into contact with you, they go and do research to substantiate, hey, this is a good guy. They go and show their boss. There are usually 7 different contact points in a B2B purchase decision of working with someone else. And at every stage, they are going to go and look at that website for some reason. So here's my question to you. Can we risk that website giving them fear? Or do we want to be absolutely certain that it is our best salesperson and they're walking away going, oh yeah, this satisfies all of our needs. We're willing to give this guy a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot to unpack on our personal website, which we could always talk about offline. But I think your point is well taken. Your website, whether you know it or not, is speaking to your audience, and it's either giving them fear or relieving them of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So, and that could be whether it converts or doesn't convert. You may not know what's happening, but there's ways to find out. It's a little bit more obvious when there's a conversion metric that you can measure and increase as to the value, but overall messaging is probably harder to ascertain some feedback.
What I can tell you is that I've worked with literally hundreds of companies that have said to me, we've never received a legitimate inquiry online. And I would say close to every time, depending on the business, when you've applied science and driven proper traffic there, that has changed. We have one client in Australia that I love. They're a very niche business. They're actually my longest serving client. They work in the mining industry. And when a big mining machine throws a tire, you can't just go down to Bridgestone and chuck another tire on. Like, this thing is worn down 40 inches on every tire. So you've got to go and find another one which is worn down exactly that amount from a tire spec that they maybe only make 10 of these tires globally per year. And so this guy, who had never received an inquiry on his website ever, it was all done through personal networks. All of a sudden, once we applied our science, this now generates 95% of all of their inquiry. Because all of a sudden the minds were going, you know what, there is one person who is searching for this term. And look, there's a supplier for this specific thing who says he's got a network. And we've got all the trust and proof in this. It totally transformed their business. And I am positive that even when you've only got a small amount of traffic like you have and not got any leads, when you apply the science, it opens the doors to possibility.
Yeah. Oh, I would be 100% in agreement with you. We made a decision a couple of years ago to focus all of our energies around for our particular marketplace to go after referral partnerships and leverage the word of mouth relationships that we already had. It's paid off in spades. So we know that was the right decision. Now that's going well, now it's time to start looking at our website again and rethinking and reimagining how it could be of benefit to us. And so I think a lot of business owners are in the same spot. Like most of the B2B companies I talk to, their business is word of mouth, and they're doing things to continue to enhance it. And we know, because we interview customers, we talk to their customers, and they say, yeah, before I was going to buy that widget or that service, I searched my referral groups, my peer partners, my EO, my Vistage, my this, my that. But they always also at some point looked at the website and said, they're going to get an impression in 2.7 seconds of, do they want to finish that phone call to this person? Does that add to the likelihood of conversion, or does it detract from it? So the website's very important no matter what you're selling or how you're selling it.
I think that what would be interesting is if we go into a little bit more of the science and use you as a case study of what is it which convinces people to take action, because B2B is very, very particular when it comes to what people are looking for. For those listening, if you're interested in understanding what are the questions that in B2B people are searching, you can go to our website, which is jmarketing.agency, and download my ebook on this. It is 15 years of research condensed into about 20 pages, so it's super easy reading. But what it does is it breaks down the questions that you want to answer simply. And so if we use fractional CMO as an example, no one wants a fractional CMO.
Exactly.
Just like no one wants to go for a run. I'm going to do it shortly after this, but I don't want to run. What I want to be is in shape. And when I go back to Australia for a visit, I want to play football with my friends and I want to outperform them. But I don't want to go for a run and I don't want a fractional CMO. Here's what I do want. And I'll put words in your mouth, but please correct me. I want my business to have world-class marketing structures that reduce my cost of acquisition, that give me certainty in how I'm going to be able to acquire customers in a stable fashion in the future. And I want to avoid all the wasted time and lost money by trying to work it out myself. Would that be a fair assumption of the stuff you hear when you meet clients?
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. What I would say is most clients, by the time we're in the conversation, have wasted that time and energy trying to figure it out themselves. So they're tired of it. Now they're at the point where they want to know what they don't know. And they want certainty that what they don't know is true and will work. And so that comes with the confidence and clarity that they feel they've tried every other avenue. And now they're thinking, well, maybe this fractional CMO is the thing I haven't tried. I've tried an agency. I've tried to hire for it. I've tried to learn it on my own. I'm still trying the next thing. And this fractional CMO thing sounds interesting. It sounds a little more credible than the past, or at least different. But at the end of the day, to you said, they don't care. They don't want a fractional CMO. They want confidence that their marketing strategy is going to work for them, because it's still a bit of a gamble. They still got to throw money at this before they see results. So they need the confidence. They want to know that it's strategic, that it's just not throwing more dollars at Google or at SEO or whatnot. And they need to feel like the person that they're going to bring in also is going to be a good fit, a good cultural fit. So those are things that we have to address in our sales process that we probably don't address as well in the marketing on our website as we do in the sales process, because we're really good in the sales process.
I have no doubt that's where you shine. And I hear it over and over again. Here's the problem. 67% of the time people spend in making a B2B decision is spent on independent research before they are willing to speak to you.
Yep.
Why aren't they willing to speak to you? Well, a whole heap of stuff, but it's getting worse and worse as time goes on, is basically we're scared of either feeling stupid or being sold to.
Yep.
So on average, when they make that search and land on your website, if they're searching for fractional CMOs, you're one of 7. They have you and 6 others open on their screen. And you said it before, what they're searching for is certainty. And this is one of the big challenges in B2B. And I rarely ever see it done properly. This is why we're able to make the bet we are. They want to know what they're going to get. So what does the actual process look like? And how can I be certain that you've done this with a company like mine so I'll get the same result?
Yep.
I bet that sounds scary as hell to you when I say it, because no two clients are exactly the same.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have the conversation a lot internally and externally is how important is industry expertise or experience when working with a new client. And what we found, I just went back and I used AI and I analyzed 50 sales conversations over a year. And I asked the AI, we dissected it, how important was industry expertise in this decision process? And what was interesting was it was almost unimportant. There was zero correlation. There was zero correlation with the conversation. It never came up. There was zero correlation with it actually being part of the people that closed and didn't close. But I still know from my own personal experience that it is one of the first things people say before we get that first sales appointment. Do you have people with industry experience? Because somehow in their mind, certainty is from someone else who's been there, done it before, even though it doesn't actually factor into the sales conversation. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, if you go and download my book, you'll see that that is one of the core things. People want to see that you've got clients like them and you've generated a result. It's one of the first things I advise companies to do is, unless you deal with Fortune 500 companies, don't have a McDonald's logo on your website as a customer of yours. You're actually scaring people away. If your main target is, I don't know, $5 to $20 million businesses, then get examples of that. That's the case study that's going to sell, because I want to see myself in your clients. And with that expertise piece is absolutely bang on, that they do look for it, but what they're really looking for is just certainty. This will work. And timeliness. This will work within. Same question I get every time I make the landing page bet. Well, if I say yes today, how long until I see results?
I like the word certainty. I think that summarizes it. But the words that I hear are clarity and confidence. Like from the actual people I talk to, like, well, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for someone that, I'm looking for clarity of my plan. I'm looking for confidence. They're not saying certainty, but they are looking for it. Yeah.
There's statistics in public speaking, and look at different resources, you'll see different results, but it always equates to the same thing. The way that words are received is broken down by its level of importance of 70% how you sound, 20% how you look, and 10% what you actually say.
Yeah, it is funny.
What does that tell you about how the brain makes decisions? And this is very, very relevant because it is, when you actually go into the study of psychology, it's the opposite of what we think. We think that humans make hugely rational decisions. Well, that is just fundamentally untrue. If it was, we wouldn't be with the partners we're in, the jobs we're doing, the countries we live in. The truth is that all decisions stem from an emotional reaction. That's why the tone is so important. And when it comes to, if we're in the digital realm, creating emotion, it's not about being creative. It's about feeding that person's emotions, be it what they want to gain or removing the fears and anxieties that are stopping them from taking that next step.
Yeah, I agree. So I love your offer. I think it'd be insane for somebody that heard about it, that was in consideration, to not take you up on it. What is the other offer that you have that's also pretty interesting to consider?
So if you are running Google Ads, then you should most certainly talk to me about auditing what you're doing. I don't care if it's someone internal that's running it or it's an agency. I was trained by Google 20 years ago for a long time. I trained the best of the best. And in my experience, most companies that are spending money on Google Ads are wasting a big chunk of it, totally unbeknownst to them. And I will give you two funny examples that I love giving to everyone. There's a major electricity and gas company in Australia that was using a big time agency. So they were spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on Google Ads every month. The 10th most common term they were spending money on, unbeknownst to them, was farts. When people typed in fart or farts into Google, any idea why?
Some sort of acronym. I gotta bet, but you tell me.
Google's AI likes to sell you, oh, we know everything. It's AI. We know what people really mean. So oil and gas company, one of their terms was related to gas. And so Google said, farts are gas. And so they ended up spending literally tens of thousands of dollars on someone that could not possibly become a customer.
Yeah.
The other great example I love was, are you familiar with, it's not very big anymore, but Sugar CRM? Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't used it, but I heard of it.
The Australian, they probably won't like me telling this story, but the Australian agency that was looking after them, I audited. And it was, again, one of the top 10 terms they were spending money on in Australia was when people searched for sugar daddies.
Yeah.
Again, you could use a CRM for that, but
that's a dangerous,
not the intent.
It's a dangerous CRM.
Yeah. And so to come back to the offer, this is my point, is I will audit what you're doing. I'll show you where you or your agency are wasting money. I will also show you how this is leading through to a landing page that is not converting, and I will show you the data. And all of this is not just, oh, hey, I don't think it's working well. This is exactly how to fix it. If you want to go and do it, here's all the keys to the castle. You can go and do it. But I'm betting on the fact that if the guys that were implementing it were wasting this much money, you're going to want an expert to then go and actually do it. Or you're going to refer me to someone that you know that wants that. So that's the entry-level product, number 2, that we offer.
I love it. And it's so important for people to take the time to audit their agencies or their internal team even from time to time, because things are changing so much, so fast with AI, which makes me wonder, have you started looking into, I've heard it called generative engine optimization, or I've called it AI optimization, but the idea that many people are now searching AI for answers and things instead of Google and the internet. Have you done much research and gotten an understanding of what are some of the fundamentals related to GEO and AIO?
Yeah, this is an emerging field, which if SEOs aren't currently looking at, they absolutely should be. And there is so much discussion online every single day. Are you familiar with Google getting caught with their hands in the till recently?
No, I haven't heard that.
There was a massive article in, I always confuse the Australian and the US newspapers. It's not the Financial Review, it's the
Wall Street Journal?
Thank you. Yes, you got it in one. And investigative discovery reporting found out that Google had been artificially increasing the cost of Google Ads. And the reason is because AI is stealing so much of that market share at the moment.
Yeah, I do know that.
People are going there because it provides a much deeper level of answer, and the stuff that they're able to provide is just the instant solution. So this is a very, very important area that everyone should be paying attention to. What's your experience with it so far?
I started looking at it over a year ago. I did a deep dive into AI when it first came out, and I saw a lot of opportunity in it. Went down the path of thinking that there was a potential offering that I could bring to the market for a fractional AI officer. That's what people need, is somebody strategic that can develop their AI strategy and then oversee its implementation. But it was way too soon in the marketplace a year and a half ago. I think it's starting to be available. That need is starting to emerge now, potentially. But the other thing I see is people actually don't just want the strategy. They need the doers that can build and implement agentic AI solutions. But as I was diving into it, I did see, my crystal ball was, SEO is dead, long live search, and search is going to be in AI and LLMs. And so I started digging, and there wasn't a lot of research. Most of these companies aren't sharing it. They're not like, there's no Google algorithm to figure out. It's just kind of, you're guessing and just some trial and error and some different things. So we started doing an internal test at my company, Frost Media Group, which does content creation and podcasting and social media work. And we would go in and we'd take 3 LLMs and we'd start doing our own search terms: podcasting Nebraska, podcasting US, like taking what normally would be SEO terms and putting inside the LMs and seeing where we came up on the list and how we were being depicted. And we asked it a few other questions, and then we would start implementing things on our site to try to see if that persuaded it.
Yep.
Long story short, we found out that traditional SEO does not impact generative engine optimization in the same way, but it does have an initial bearing. Okay. So when you search in ChatGPT for website landing conversion companies, as an example, which it's a big broad bucket. If you already are ranking for that, you're going to be having a good chance to rank inside of ChatGPT. But that's not how people normally use ChatGPT. What people normally do is say, I want my site to rank higher and convert more. Can you help me? And then it goes through this litany of all the answers from ChatGPT. And at the very end, then you might say, that sounds like a lot of work. Is there somebody locally that can help me? And that's when you get the response from ChatGPT. So what we found is that it's actually a lot of comparative narratives and positioning and differentiation that had more impact. Sites that had like the top 10 CMOs in Nebraska, the top 5, like these list sites that generally impacted SEO, but were never on everybody's radar.
Yeah,
were where early AI was searching for recommendations. Now it's changed. ChatGPT scrapes the internet, probably has as big of a database of sites as Google. And so they're less dependent on traditional SEO for even that starter batch, but it still influences, it still impacts it, I believe. It's really hard to determine exactly what to do, but I do know it's not the same as what you were doing with SEO.
100%. And I think one of the things that's really important for people to understand is that when we say Google, when we're talking about the search engines, that is AI. That has been AI for decades, because their algorithms are looking at things like, did people spend a long time on this site? Therefore, is it really what it's saying? Is it really an answer to this search query? And I say that in order to say this, that really good SEO, and by extension then, what is going to push you into AI, is being a real topic expert. If that's what you want, then don't just write about your offer, write about everything to do with it. If you sell water taps in the B2B market, then write everything about the replacement filters, do a whole article on that, talk about replacement filter service time. What are the average service times in the industry? Go bananas writing really high value content, and you will be seen as the expert. And that is both SEO and AI combined.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We found that adding things like statistics to your content would make a difference. Differentiating and mentioning your competitors and how you're different made a difference. being authoritative in your content made a difference, because ChatGPT and Grok and Perplexity and Claude, they're all looking for experts to feed their engine so they can be the expert. And if you come across that way in their minds, you're more likely to be present and be picked as a source.
And funnily enough, this ties into our model as well, and something that I often have to show our customers to be believed. But if we know that your customer is comparing you to 6 other competitors, then why not do that comparison for them?
Yeah.
Why have them bounce away? If it's relevant for a customer, it will also be relevant for Google and for AI. The very same thing, this one will be controversial, so I'm interested in your thoughts and your immediate objections in particular. The very same thing comes down to listing your price. B2Bs are very reluctant to put price online because, well, it varies for every customer or it's complex. What's your immediate reaction to me saying
that? I understand you, and I understand that market very well because I'm in it. I like to just be transparent with pricing as I can. So in my businesses that I'm involved with where I can, I am. In our business at your CMO, because of the way our arrangements are with our CMOs, we're a franchise organization, so they set their price. So I actually am prohibited from having a price on the site. But I still have that conversation with the CMOs quite a bit. Like, maybe you should go public with your price or not. And it's a sensitive topic. We also have different varying scopes of work we do, and it's very highly customized. So at least a price range, I still think, is transparency if you can give it. But if as a consumer, I'm always looking for price. I'm always looking for a price. I'm always looking for a price. So if it's not there, that's part of what you would say. That gives me some fear and uncertainty.
Yeah. And for those that are listening right now, I bet you there's a whole heap of people who are saying, yeah, but like, I don't want people price comparing me. I don't want them to think that we're all plumbers who are all changing toilets and it's just a different price. In the mind of the customer, that's actually not what they care about. Price is such a broad spectrum. And this is where it takes a little while, but once you think creatively, you can give the customer what they really want. They actually don't really care about your CMO fees, so to speak. What they care about is, what are the prices and overall, what are the project prices that you've worked with look like, and what have they then yielded? So a lot of companies will talk about their fees being on average 5% of marketing budget, but by the way, we reduce your marketing budget by about 20% from it being more efficient.
Right.
So you've addressed the issue, but you haven't just said, oh yeah, we charge 10 grand a month.
The other thing that people shy away from in marketing in general, I think, is ROI and that conversation. Oh, you can't measure it. Brand is so subjective. Results are, hard to attribute. But I think you should tackle that straight away. Like, we have to have an ROI, otherwise you won't hire us. Like, some aspects are a little bit easier. Showing a conversion rate increase is definitely an easy way and practical way to have an ROI for what you do. But as fractional CMOs, it's a much difficult conversation. Well, what is the return on leadership? If we're coming in there and leading the show, hiring the right people or the wrong people, hiring the right vendors or the wrong vendors, yes, we have a cost that may not have a direct response, but what we do needs to be showing an increase in the overall revenue or profitability of the company, or we're not worth our weight. Fractionals get much higher, more highly scrutinized than full-time people in whether it's marketing, CMO, CTO, CFO, COO. because they look at it as an expense versus, oh, I'll hire a $200,000 a year fractional COO or a full-time COO. I'm not going to measure the ROI on that. I just need one. But you hire a fractional COO and you pay that person 10 grand a month. I better see results. What about your full-time person you hired? So our fractional industry is really hard to have that appreciation, understanding of ROI, and marketing in general. I think a lot of people shy away from it because it's difficult.
And it's one of the things I really appreciate about your business, and it's something we have in common. It becomes much easier to have fantastic client outcomes if you're the one that's being picky about who you work with. And we do the same thing. You have to meet certain requirements so that I am 100% confident that we're going to be able to take your results from here to here. In our industries, respectively, there are so many unscrupulous providers that just see money and will do anything to get it. And that's where the bad relationships come from. It's where the tainted trust comes from. But I've always loved that about you guys. You are very, very clear with, we either can or can't help people, and let's sit down and hash it out to make sure we do.
Yeah. Well, we have a really great group of CMOs and are building now a really strong group of vetted partners. And I'm glad that you're one of them, one of the few that have made it through the cut and are official, and excited to be able to continue to work with you, with our clients, and get you in front of even more opportunities. So thank you so much for being a partner and for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
It was so much fun. I look forward to doing this again in the future. Maybe we'll have a case study or something we can present to everyone.
What is the best way, Joshua, for someone to get in contact with you if they want to talk to you a little bit further about what you do?
Visit our website, jmarketing.agency, and start by downloading my book, but just fill in any of the forms. I will get back to you right away.
Great. Well, I look forward to having a chance to visit you on your island one of these days soon. I'll be close. I'll be in Tulum in a few weeks, which is probably not too far from you, but it's just such a short trip. I'm like 2 days in and out. But I'll have another opportunity for sure.
Well, anytime you fly into Cancun Airport, it takes you about 30 minutes to get to my island. We'll have a driver pick you up, and then you can just relax in paradise. I'd love to host you.
That sounds fantastic. Well, thank you. And thank you to our listeners. Appreciate you tuning in. Please reach out to Joshua if you've got a need. And thank you again. Make sure, my producers tell me to ask you to subscribe to our podcast. That helps us get it in front of more people. So do that too. And tune in for more conversation from the C-Suite Retreat. Thanks a lot.
And that's a wrap. There's another successful episode of the Fractional C-Suite Retreat. See our show notes and more episodes at fractionalcsuiteretreat.com. This podcast is sponsored by your CMO, helping organizations grow, save time and money with better marketing strategy and fractional execution. Visit them at yorcmo.com, yourcmo.com. Spelled wrong on purpose.